Alright, welcome to 7-4 Parallel Lines and Proportional Parts Part 2. You need this glue in here with this handy dandy, all those things. And then we use 4 colored pencils today: green, pink, purple, and orange. Alright, I'm going to start by writing a couple of things and then we'll glue this in. We won't cut it. We'll just glue it in, but it'll be a couple lines down. So, I'm going to start with 7-4 Parallel Lines and Proportional Parts, Part 2. Okay. So we're going to write our definition first, and then we'll glue this in, and we'll kind of show what that definition means. And then we just have 3 quick examples today. It's pretty fast. Okay, so what we know is that proportional parts of parallel lines. So really it's like yesterday. So yesterday, I'm going to flip back for a second. Yesterday we'd have parallel lines, and when they were cut, we called these transversals. Remember when they cut through parallel lines? Eventually these transversals are going to come to a point and create that triangle. So today, instead of having those 2 triangles, they're just like going to cut that part off, saying it's too much to draw that. So we still can say all of these parts are still proportional. Okay, and that's really what we're looking at, is eventually it would make a triangle. We just aren't going to draw that all the way out to the eventually. Okay. So, 3 or more parallel lines with 2 transversals creates proportional measures on the transversals. Okay, 3 or more parallel lines cut by 2 transversals create, I don't think I should have a comma there, creates proportional measures on the transversal. Sorry about that. Proportional measures on the transversal. The transversals, I should say. Okay, so you can go ahead and glue this in now underneath that. Again, you don't need to cut it. We're just gluing in the whole thing just right here, so that we had room for that. Right there for a second, in case you need to keep writing that down. Alright, this is where we'll need those colored pencils. Alright, so here we have some parallel lines, so I'm going to just mark those parallel lines with my pink. So our parallel lines are A to W. So A, W, and it's a line, so we put arrows on both sides, is parallel to BX. Which is parallel to CY. Okay, so because we have all 3 of these parallel, there's a couple of things, and it's very similar to yesterday of how we can write those ratios. Okay, so one ratio we can write is AB over WX. So these two that share in between that first 2 parallel lines. is equal to, and then our second one here we have b to c over x to y. But we can also compare it to that whole length. So a all the way to c over w all the way to y. Okay, and again, when we cover up half of those, they should see that they're coming from the same thing. So AB, BC, AC, they all come from the same side. They all come from up there. And WX, XY, and WY, they all come from the bottom. Okay, so we have two examples that we're going to work through. And in this one, again, we're just finding that missing length, that question mark. So when we start with a proportion, I always like to start with that question mark on top. So I'm going to figure out what I'm going to compare that question mark to. Okay, so I have this question mark here. And I'm just going to follow those parallel lines through to the other side, and that would be compared with 8. Okay, now I have to go back to the side of the question mark, so I'm going to cover up that 8. I don't want that side anymore. I want to look back over here. And the other part that we know is this 27. So we'll go on top with that question mark. 27. But that's the whole length from the first parallel line to the last parallel line. So we need that whole length over here, from the first all the way to the last. So 8 plus 10 is 18. So over 18. Okay, so these two come from the same spot. They're on the right side there. And these ones come from the bottom. So we're good on the way that that's set up. And solve that. All we have to do to get rid of that dividing by 8 is the opposite. An opposite or inverse of dividing is multiplying. So I was trying to grab my phone. Multiply both sides by 8. So remember that 8 and 8, they undo each other, so we don't need that anymore. So we just have question mark equals 27 divided by 18. I can't find decimals, so I'll just have to use the regular calculator. 27 divided by 18 times 8, and we get 12. So question mark is 12. Alright, last one here. This one, we have to actually solve for x, would be our directions. So I'm going to first locate that x and where that is. It's right here. So I want that to be on top, because that's my unknown, negative 7 plus 4x over. Now I'm going to compare that to a cross. That's how I always work. I always go through that. Okay, so I want this amount here. But for that amount, I know that the whole length is 24, and this part is 9. So I'm going to subtract 24 minus 9 is 15. So I know this is 15. Okay, because the whole length is 24. The first part is 9, so the second part has to be 15 when I subtract. So I'm missing 15 there. Okay, equals, now I have to go to the same side as that negative 7 plus 4x. And I have this 15 over, and then I'm going over across, and I see 9. Okay, this one's a little bit more involved as we solve it. Our first step, though, is x is in the numerator, so we're going to keep all of those things in the numerator. We're going to undo that dividing by 15. To undo a dividing by 15, we multiply both sides by 15. So that gets rid of that 15. I'm left with negative 7 plus 4x equals, And again, use my calculator, but decimals was a rough time this morning. 15 divided by 9 times 15 is 25. So equals 25. Alright, our goal is to solve for x, so that means we want our answer to look like x equals. So we don't want the -7 or the 4 there. So to get rid of those, we think best friend of the x is the 4, so we're going to keep those together because they're coefficient, so they're together. We're going to get rid of that -7 first. And to undo a negative, we would do a positive or a plus. We do it to one side, we do it to the other. 4x equals 25 plus 7 is 32. And then we have to undo that 4 and that x that are touching. When they're touching, remember that means multiply. So to undo multiply, you would divide. So divide by 4, divide by 4. X equals 32 divided by 4 is 8. And that's it. So there is a practice to do in Schoology 7-4 Part 2. A lot of it's just going to be about setting up those proportions, and once you have those proportions set up, then it should be easy peasy. Alright, bye.